Today, we're digging into a really important study from Translational Psychiatry. It asks a question that could change how we think about stroke recovery. When someone feels depressed after a stroke, is that just, a sad reaction to a tough event? Or is it something more, a biological red flag for what's coming next? Well, the findings are pretty clear. It's a major risk factor all on its own.
Okay, let's just jump right to the biggest headline. This study found that if a stroke survivor develops depression, what's called PSD, their odds of having another stroke within just 1 year go up by 1.64 times. Now that is a huge, statistically significant risk. It's not a small blip.
And believe it or not, the risk isn't just about another stroke. The hit to your brain's cognitive function is frankly staggering. Patients with post-stroke depression are over 6 times more likely to have serious problems with their visuospatial skills. We're talking about the fundamental ability to process what you see and navigate the world around you. 6 times. That is a massive number.
So what exactly is post-stroke depression, or PSD? Well, it's a major depressive episode that hits a huge number of stroke survivors, somewhere between 30 and 65%. In this study, which followed over 1,000 patients, really wanted to nail down that one crucial question. Is this depression just a psychological response, or is it a direct biological warning sign for more trouble ahead?
All right, first up, let's really unpack that connection between depression and the very real risk of having another stroke.
Now this is what's really fascinating. Look at the company post-stroke depression keeps on this list. The researchers controlled for everything else, and only 4 things stood out as independent predictors of a second stroke. And boom, right there is PSD. With an odds ratio of 1.64, it's sitting right next to the usual suspects, things like high blood pressure and atrial fibrillation. This is serious proof that it's not just a coincidence, it's a real predictive factor.
And here's what that risk looks like in plain numbers. In just 1 year, over 28% of the patients with depression had another stroke. Compare that to the group without depression, where it was just under 19%. That's almost a 10-point gap. In the medical world, that is a massive difference, and it really drives home the danger we're talking about.
So if you're not used to looking at a forest plot, it's actually pretty simple. See that vertical line at the number 1? That's the no effect line. Anything to the right of it means there's an increased risk. And look at the dot for PSD. It's way over to the right. And that horizontal line, its confidence interval, doesn't even touch the no effect line. It's just a really powerful, visual way of showing that this link is the real deal. Okay, now for the second huge finding from this paper, the absolutely devastating effect of PSD on a person's cognitive abilities. The research makes it clear this isn't just about feeling down. It's a major driver of serious cognitive decline, and it happens across the board. This forest plot tells a story that you just can't ignore. I mean, look at it. Every single cognitive domain they tested, memory, language, processing speed, you name it, is significantly worse in patients with PSD. None of these lines even get close to that no effect line. The damage isn't just in one specific area, it's everywhere. It's systemic.
And when you look at the numbers, they're just wow. The odds of having visuospatial problems are over 6 times higher. Language problems? Over 5 times higher. And what's really critical is that even the lowest risk here, processing speed, is still more than 4 times higher. This data really suggests that PSD isn't just something that happens after the damage, it's actively making the cognitive damage worse.
Let's just stop and think about that most severe finding for a second. Being 6 times more likely to have impaired visual spatial skills, that has huge consequences in the real world. This is what affects a person's ability to do basic things, to get around their own house, and ultimately to get their independence back.
So the big question is, if this depression is having such a powerful biological effect, can we see a physical cause for it inside the brain? Well, the researchers looked into exactly that by mapping out where the stroke damage actually happened.
And right here, we find what looks like an anatomical smoking gun. This chart shows that strokes that damaged cortico-subcortical structures were way more common in the patients who got depressed. You can think of these structures as the superhighways that connect the surface of the brain to all the deep parts. And look at the difference. Almost 29% of the PSD group had this kind of damage, compared to just 20% in the non-depressed group. That's a significant difference.
This discovery gives a ton of weight to something called the vascular depression hypothesis. Basically, the idea is that for a lot of patients, depression isn't just a psychological thing. It can be a direct physical symptom of the stroke itself, caused by damage to the exact circuits in the brain that are supposed to regulate our mood. So let's bring this all together.
what does this actually mean for doctors and patients in the real world? Let's break down the key takeaways.
Okay, so if you're going to remember anything from this, here it is. First, post-stroke depression is not just in your head. It's a symptom of a real physical injury to the brain. Second, it's a major independent risk factor for having another stroke and for widespread cognitive decline. Third, damage to those communication pathways, the cortico-subcortical tracts, seems to be a key cause. And all of that points to one single unavoidable conclusion. Screening for depression has to become a standard, essential part of care for every single stroke patient.
The study's authors really say it best. Post-stroke depression isn't just a psychosocial response. It comes directly from a neurobiological injury. And if that's true, it has to completely change how we think about it and how we treat it.
And that brings us to the final, critical question for the future of stroke treatment. If post-stroke depression carries a risk that's right up there with high blood pressure, shouldn't we start treating that depression with the same urgency to prevent a second stroke? Based on this evidence, it's hard to argue with a resounding yes.